With 2023 wrapping up, being one of the best years for gaming, 2024 seems like it'll be a pretty average year based on the small number of big releases. Despite that, there are several titles that the three of us at Cubold Gaming are looking forward to. So with that said, here are our 9 most anticipated games of 2024.
A couple who are experienced spirit hunters, entrusted with the daunting task of lifting a malevolent...
First up on our list is Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, which is an action RPG releasing in February.
And this is releasing on PC, PS5, and
Xbox Series X.
The three of us at Cubold have been watching this game for a while when it was first released at either a Game Awards or some sort of
Summer Game Fest.
Summer Game
Was
Fest.
it Summer Game Fest?
Of last year, I believe.
Now this can be played either 2-player co-op or single player, but I'm kind of curious on how the 2-player is going to work out.
Well, one person so it's a husband and wife, and basically she's a ghost, and she has like powers.
Right.
And the guy has like melee weapons and all sorts of stuff like that.
I'm really curious about how the choices are going to work, especially in co-op. Can the co-op partner make a choice that affects the other partner, or is it a shared story? Sometimes in those types of games, you have one person that makes all the choices for the world and the other person sits there and watches.
Probably the host. I would assume someone joins somebody else, and the host of that gets to make the decisions.
I do hope that the balance is weighed out correctly to where if you're playing one character or the other, it doesn't feel boring for someone. One thing I will say is that this is brought to us by the developers of A Plague Tale, which at least the first game for us, the combat really wasn't the greatest. So hopefully in this game, it's a lot better.
There aren't a lot of other games coming out in February, so this is one of the games we'll probably be playing in Q1 of this year.
You're alone in the realms, I'm afraid. The portals are a mess.
Next up on our list is Nightingale, which is a fantasy open world game that is also releasing in February. This game has us really excited because it just seems like one of those games you'd stay up late playing with your friends, which I believe you can also play with up to 6 people online.
The game looks pretty similar to Hunt Showdown, though it's not nearly as grounded and dark as Hunt Showdown is.
Hunt Showdown's an extraction shooter, though. This is a open world survival game.
With crafting, building, and I think you fight bosses as well.
There's bosses and enemies, and they're all based around Eldritch horror, which is kind of cool.
Something really interesting, though, is private worlds for you and your friends. Games like Ark and Rust don't have that. You have to play on their community servers, which are dominated by no-lifes.
There are private servers, but it's single player only.
This game definitely has a lot of potential and something we're going to be looking forward to.
Sons of the Forest is a survival horror game that released in early access in early 2023. The 1.0 release is scheduled for February 2024, and I know all of us are really excited for it. They originally said that they were going to release the full game in October of 2023, so they did push this back and started adding more content.
But we're not upset about it because we played the game when it first came out, and from what we've been hearing, it has evolved a lot since then.
I haven't looked up many things because of spoilers, but I've seen that they've added a couple new bosses, lots of new enemies, weapons, building types, and lots of other fun stuff that even some of the things we complained about have been fixed.
They even added onto the cave systems, which is something that we are really looking forward to.
And they're continuing to add on to this until the game releases. And most likely they will add a few new things after it releases as well.
Because the original Forest had a lot of post-game updates after it fully released, which added new content.
I think that one we also played in early access, and the game changed dramatically when it released.
A lot of people were disappointed with the early access release, and even though there were a few minor gripes we had with it, we were still very happy with that, and we're excited to see what comes next.
Next up on the list is Outlast Trials, which is a multiplayer horror game.
And this is releasing in March of 2024.
The original Outlast game is considered one of the scariest games of all time, and we always thought it was kind of a bit weird that they were going the multiplayer route with it, but even though it wasn't as scary, it was still really fun.
You can play it now because it is technically in early access. This is another one of those games that are releasing in 1.0, like fully releasing.
Yeah, we actually played this also when it first came out in early access, and we had a lot of fun with it. But I think at that time, it didn't have quite as much as it has now, and hopefully when it fully releases. But regardless, we still had a lot of fun with the game.
The biggest complaint we had was that in order to actually beat the game, you had to replay the same levels repeatedly.
On harder difficulties.
Yeah.
And honestly, after playing each round a few times, it kind of got repetitive. We're hoping that they change that for the full release, and hopefully they add a lot more content.
It fully releases on March 5th.
There is a house in New Orleans they call...
Alone in the Dark is a single-player horror game that's a remake of the cult classic horror game that was released back in 1992.
We personally didn't play that one back in
No, we didn't.
1992 because we're not that old.
From what I see in the trailers, it does look a lot like Resident Evil, but I can't confirm it because, again, we haven't played the original game. It does look very interesting, though. The way I see it, the story can either be very good or it could be lackluster.
I know they're taking liberties from the original because the original obviously came out in 1992. So there was a lot of things they could have put in the game but couldn't because of the limitations in game development at the time.
With any remake they do of a really old game, the best ones stay true to the story as much as possible while innovating on modern mechanics and eliminating a lot of the old annoyances.
Even though we never played the original, we are looking very much forward to this game.
Black Myth Wukong is releasing on August 20th. This game is an action RPG rooted in Chinese mythology and looks similar to Dark Souls or the Nioh games.
From what I've seen in the trailers, it does look very ambitious. Some of the set pieces were absolutely massive, but it does look like something I would personally enjoy.
It was actually one of the first games that started to be created in Unreal Engine 5.
I think I remember there being demo footage of that, right? Didn't they
Back
release?
in, when was it? 2019, I think? 2020?
The game looks very unique, and it was one of the most standout games at the Game Awards of 2023. At first, we thought it was a bit weird looking, but then it really grew on us the more they showed off.
They finally showed off a gameplay trailer, and it looks very, very fun.
Someone here put "You Are Monkey Man" on the list, and I guess you play as a monkey character the whole time. I don't really know much about the mythology, but it does look unique and very interesting. So we're definitely looking forward to it.
Next on the list is Replaced, which is a 2.5D sci-fi retro futuristic action platformer, where you play as Reach, an artificial intelligence trapped in a human body against its own will.
That's a mouthful.
Yep.
This game looks incredible. I do remember there being a teaser. I can't remember what it was from, but we watched a teaser a couple years ago and we were instantly intrigued by the game.
So is it actually 3D animated or is it pixel art?
It's both.
So they made pixel art and then rendered that in 3D?
Yes.
Something that you see in the trailer is the camera has these smooth movements to where I think that's what the 2.5D is.
It looks,
It
it gives it the illusion of 3D,
Right.
even though it technically isn't.
It breaks from that standard camera view and it breaks it and kind of revolves around the character just slightly.
It kind of looks like the art style of Blasphemous, but more 3D and set in a cyberpunk-ish world. The game looks super unique, and I only heard about this recently, but I know the three of us really like the way it looks so far.
It's supposed to be a very cyberpunk-ish experience, and it's definitely one we are looking forward to this year.
Little Nightmares 3 is the third installment to the very, very popular Little Nightmares series games, but this one has a twist to where you can actually play co-op.
We thought that Little Nightmares 2 was going to be co-op based on the second character. The game turned out to be very good, even without that, but it's very interesting to see what they're going to do with this one.
I am curious because this is also going to be developed by a new studio, and the studio that is developing the game is a good studio, so we believe that the game is in good hands, although we're still a little unsure.
It's going to be created by Supermassive Studios, which they also did the anthology games, Until Dawn, The Quarry.
We do like those games.
So they
those
know how
games
to
are
make
very
a good
good.
horror game.
I think the co-op is going to be interesting though, because in a way, playing with someone else sometimes diminishes the horror value of a game. Although I guess it could still be scary co-op.
I think if they do sections where it's you separate and go on your own paths and you're alone, that would be amazing.
That would be
Especially
good.
if there's in-game voice chat and you don't know what's happening with the other person.
That would also give replayability, since you could play as the other character and experience that side of the story.
And you know what's interesting is Supermassive Games does this already with their anthology games. So they already have experience in having that same style. So we'll have to see if they implement that in Little Nightmares 3.
Yeah, so Little Nightmares is one of our favorite game series of all time, so we're really looking forward to this one.
The Empire? They're everywhere.
Star Wars Outlaws is marketed as the first open world Star Wars game, releasing sometime in 2024 but with no release date.
I do think it's kind of interesting because although this one is marketed as the first ever open world, the Jedi Survivor games are semi-open world.
They're considered more of like a Metroidvania style with a large world. You can't really go anywhere you want, but you can only go back to certain areas after you've unlocked a certain power.
And I think the second game had less planets than the first game.
It had less, but the planets were bigger.
This looks like it's going to be more of the Ubisoft open world style, when previously it was EA Star Wars games. So they're going to be probably putting a lot of their signature Assassin's Creed style in there. Hopefully not to the point where it's kind of ridiculous and just boring, but it's going to be really interesting to see what they do.
Although an open world Star Wars game is something that at least a couple of us have been wanting for such a long time.
Only Ubisoft can mess that one up, but
Yeah,
we'll see
they
what
better
happens.
not mess it up.
Overall, we all think the game looks pretty good, but we have pretty tempered expectations of it.
This is going to wrap up our most anticipated games of 2024. If there are any other games that we missed that are also highly anticipated, we are sorry we left those out, because there are quite a few games coming out in 2024 and we couldn't cover every single one of them in a video. But let us know down in the comment section below what your most anticipated games are. This is a new style of video we're trying out, so if you do enjoy this type of video, let us know down in the comment section below. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you in the next video.